Cross member is now installed. There's 4 bolts that hold it in place. There's 2 of them there, and there's 2 identical ones on the other side. And you can see the rear motor mount now sits on top of the cross member. And I'll give you a view from above as well, looking down into that area. Here's a tip for you. When building the motor mounts, I would build the front mount first, that mount up front. And the reason for that is because, well, for one, you can use the MR2 turbo front part of the mount, the donut part, and then this part of the mount, you'll be able to build it with the when it's off the car. Of course, you'll have to put the engine up into the engine bay with the transmission jack holding it in place. It'll just be kind of floating in the engine bay while you take measurements and do cardboard cutouts, templates for the steel. I would do that mount first. I would do the passenger side, the right side mount that's on the front of the motor, or the right side of the motor really, second, okay, and do this mount third. And like I said, don't do it like this. Do it the way I talked about with the suspension mount, with the suspension urethane bushing, and then do this mount last. This mount gave me some trouble just now when I was putting it in. I haven't put it in since I welded on some additional reinforcing webbing. The webbing keeps the mount from flexing sideways, adds stiffness sideways, but when I welded it, it warped it to that direction quite a bit, so I had to re-drill this hole into the urethane mount. Now we'll go above the car, and I'll give you a view from above. Okay, there's a view of the rear mount from above. Another tip is that when you're installing the mounts, when you're installing the engine, like I am now, you know, after everything's done and I've pulled it out, put it back in several times now, before you tighten any of the bolts, put all the bolts into all the mounts first. This bolt here, and then make sure that that you leave them loose when you don't tighten them down all the way. This you want to be able to wiggle the engine around a little bit. You'll be able to wiggle it around about 1/8 of an inch if you leave all the bolts loose. So leave that bolt loose. These bolts here should be tight. You know, just this bolt here, the cross bolt, should be loose. Those bolts down there, you want to make sure they're loose. Go back underneath the car here. Sorry for the shaky video. So here's the rear mount. These bolts should be loose. These 2 up here should be loose. You know, that's the underside bolt. It's the one that goes all the way through. And let's see, these 2 bolts should be loose, and that bolt should be loose. And the cross bolt on the front mount should be loose, and the 4 bolts that hold the turbo mount to the firewall should be loose. Once you get all the bolts in place and get them all threaded all the way in, or most of the way in, and that's, you know, on all the mounts, then go ahead and tighten them all down. Make your job a lot easier. Now that the cross member is installed, I can go ahead and drop the transmission jack. And I like this jack a lot because you can swing the jack handle around, get it out of your way, or you can reach it from both sides of the car. It's got the release valve right here. And by the way, there's the let me get some light here. There's the tilting that I was talking about earlier, and you can see tilt away, turn it clockwise. This one here rocks the engine side to side, so that is extremely handy especially when you're building the mounts for the first time and you need to move the engine around. You may have noticed earlier I had a level gauge sitting on top of the axle there that showed me whether or not the engine was level. That's really handy when you're building the mounts as well. So there it is. Jack is no longer supporting the engine. Engine's fully in the car. And that's how you install a V8 into the Toyota MR2. There it is. And you can see this is the 1991 through 99 body style. There's my 93 turbo.